Hey, your goal is to speak English fluently, like a native English speaker, but you're not really sure where you are on your English journey. You're not sure how close you are to English fluency. Well, today I am going to teach you how to test your English fluency. Are you ready? Well then, I'm teacher Tiffany. Let's jump right in. Now, the very first thing I want to explain to you is exactly what is fluency. You see, English fluency is basically your ability to express your opinion clearly in another language, English. And it's also the ability you have to express yourself easily. So again, fluency is all about you expressing your opinion, getting your ideas across very clearly. When you are able to do that, no matter what you're asked, then you are considered an English speaker, a fluent English speaker. So here's the thing though, how do teachers test fluency? I'll explain it like this. English teachers go through a series of fluency test questions, and I did the same thing. We ask introduction questions, asking students to introduce themselves and then ask basic questions. Now, this is something I did very often when I was in South Korea teaching my students. I'd have new students come in and they wanted to know where they were along their English journey. So I would also ask them introduction questions, then various topic questions, asking them to answer a series of various topic questions, questions related to topics like the weather or politics. Then I would ask them questions about what they said. Follow-up questions, asking them to give more information. We talk about current events and then also their opinion. Now, this is what happened. After I asked them all of those questions during the interview, I analyzed 6 different parts of their responses. First, I analyzed how much content, i.e., or for example, information the student included when they spoke to me during the interview. Again, I'm trying to help you understand how this English fluency test is set up. First being, hey, is the individual, are you as the English learner able to give enough content, enough information when you respond? Then I checked and analyzed the variety of different vocabulary words the student used when they were speaking to me. I listened for beginner, intermediate, and advanced English vocabulary words. Again, the English fluency test is very in-depth. First, starting with content. Second, going to vocabulary. Are you using basic vocabulary words, intermediate vocabulary words, or advanced vocabulary words? Now, as I continue explaining how I tested my students, I want to remind you that everything I am going to teach you today about this English fluency test, you can download. I have a free PDF that breaks down the English fluency test that I'm going to break down to you today. And all you have to do is click the link right below this video and you can get the free PDF. So the next thing is I looked at the thought process. I analyzed the thought process behind the student's answer as they were speaking to me. You see, my goal was to see if they had good supporting information. It's so important for you to support your answers. Again, not just about the information you're giving, not just about the vocabulary words, but in order to see if you are a fluent English speaker, I need to also see, you need to also recognize, are you able to truly support your answers? The fourth part of this test that we're going to get into is the thought process again. The personal story is the fourth part. I analyzed the students' responses to see if they included personal stories and how they connected them. This is such an important part of testing your English fluency. Are you able to tell a story? Are you able to connect your personal life to whatever you're talking about? The fifth thing I looked at was their response speed. I analyzed how quickly the student understood the meanings of my questions and their ability to give a clear response. How quickly can you respond? Your response time is also an indicator of your fluency level. And this test is going to look at each and every part of your English fluency. And finally, the length. I analyzed the length of the response the student gave me. I wanted to see if they could speak for longer periods of time without stopping to think. Now, all of these things, each of these things, 6 different parts are important when you are trying to see your English fluency. We're going to look at each section for you. So, again, we have response length. So the student, maybe they got a 90% in the response length, maybe an 80% for response speed, 80% for personal story, 90% for thought process, 80% for vocabulary, and 80% for content. Again, in each section, you'll receive a different score. And don't worry, I'm going to break it down very clearly so that you can test yourself today. Now, after having each section scored, I did the average, 500 over 600, and they got an 83.3%. But what did that mean for the student? How can you test your fluency? Here we go. Remember, I explained there are 6 categories. There are 6 different categories that you must consider if you want to test your fluency in English. I want you to have your pen and paper out right now. Again, I am going to, give you this PDF totally for free that breaks down everything I am going to explain. But as I'm explaining everything, I still want you to please have your pen and paper ready. So, each of these categories is important. Vocabulary, content, thought process, personal story, response speed, and response length. So, if you get between a 60% and a 79%, you have intermediate fluency. But if you get between an 80% to a 100%, you have advanced fluency. Remember, this is going to show you where you are on your English journey after you've tested yourself in each category and then averaged out your score. So let's get in it. Here we go. Starting with the first one, how to test yourself. This category, the first category is the content category. The first thing you need to do is focus on your ability to provide information about a topic. But I want you to also remember, you need to record yourself. As you go through each of the categories, I want you to record yourself. Remember, you are testing your English fluency on your own. So, record yourself. The very first thing you're doing in category number 1 is you're choosing 5 questions. Now remember, don't look at the questions beforehand. Simply choose cards, like create a set of cards with multiple questions. Before you start the test, I want you to choose maybe 40 to 50 different questions, random questions you find online. And at the first step for category number 1, you're going to choose 5 questions, all right? Next, you're going to set your timer for 5 minutes. You will have a total of 5 minutes. 5 minutes, I have my timer right here. You'll have a total of 5 minutes to answer all of the questions, right? 5 minutes. Not for each question, but for all 5 questions. Again, we're in category number 1. Now, you have 2 goals. Your first goal is once the timer has started, you want to speak for 1 minute about each question. 1 minute for each question. You have a total of 5 minutes, but 1 minute for each question. Again, don't worry. Everything that I'm saying is written literally. On the PDF, you'll see if you print it out or if you use the digital version, you'll see everything that I'm saying, all right? So don't worry. So your first goal is to speak for 1 minute for each question. Then goal number 2, you want to provide at least 3 pieces of information about each question. So you have 5 minutes to answer 5 questions, 1 minute for each question. But you want to make sure you're giving 3 pieces of information for each question. So let's say the first question is, can you describe your mother? Well, you have to speak for a full minute, 60 seconds, right? Remember, record yourself and also time yourself. Well, my mother, her name is Mary, and she's actually she's only 5 foot tall. She's a very amazing cook, and I can continue, right? Because again, I'm a fluent English speaker, and you'll be able to do it as well. Count the details you give when you answer each question. Now, listen to the recording of yourself and take notes on your timing and the information. So, here's the scoring for category 1. If you were able to give a total of 15 unique pieces of information in 5 minutes, you get 100% for this category. Remember, 5 questions. Each question you should have answered for 1 minute. The first one I said was about my mother, and I was able to give 3 pieces of information. So I gave 3 for number 1. Now for the remaining 4 questions, as you listen to yourself, as you watch yourself, again, you are scoring yourself for this test. You're the student and the teacher, kind of. You're going to write down, for question number 1, I gave 3 pieces of information about my mom, whatever the question might be. Number 2, it was a little bit difficult. I only gave 1 piece of information. Number 3, I only gave 2 pieces of information. Add the pieces of information you gave, add it all up, and score yourself based on this score sheet right here. 12 pieces of information, you get an 80%. 9 pieces, you get 60%. And you see the scoring right there. Once again, when you download the 3 PDF, the link in the description, you'll see again how to score. Again, I'll scroll down all the way to the bottom. If you're watching this, you can see it. If you're listening to it, don't worry, the link is in the description. But you see the grading scales at the very end of the PDF for each section. And we're on the first section, the first category being content. And you see how you can score yourself, right? So we have that for category number 1. Now, what about the next category? How to test yourself on vocabulary. This focuses on your ability to use a variety of English vocabulary words. So what you're going to do at the very first part of this category, I'm going to show you this actually using the PDF for this one. Category number 2, vocabulary. What you're going to do is you're going to choose 10 questions. Now, don't look at the questions beforehand. Simply choose the cards or the numbers. So again, you're going to choose 10 questions. It's very important that you choose 10 questions. These questions are going to help you as you go through this part of the test. Now, after you've chosen, again, the 10 questions, you then want to set your timer for 5 minutes. Notice we're using the timer for each part, for each category. So again, you want to set your timer. I'm going to show you my timer once again. You want to set your timer again for 5 minutes. Right here I have mine. Mine is set for 5 minutes, again, for this section. Remember, set it for 5 minutes. And you're going to give vocabulary words for all 10 of the questions you selected. Let me explain this a little bit more. So again, we're right here on the category of vocabulary. When you're asked a question, for example, let's say the question is, like I asked earlier, tell me about your mother. For this time period, I'm going to try to answer all 10 of the questions, and my goal is to try to answer them and use many vocabulary words. My mom is amazing. My mom is very eloquent. I'm using as many vocabulary words as I possibly can. So now, going back now, right here, goal number 1. Once the timer has started, your first goal is to give 5 different vocabulary words in 30 seconds. So just like I said earlier, I said the question was, hey, tell me about your mom. Now I have a 5-minute timer, right? But I only have 30 seconds for each question. Remember, you're choosing 10 questions for the second category. So if you have 5 minutes for those 10 questions, that means it's 30 seconds for each question. You're going to just continue giving vocabulary words related to the question. So again, this is the category of vocabulary. Your second goal is to never repeat the same vocabulary word for any of the topics. Once again, your goal is to never repeat never repeat the same vocabulary word for any of the topics. All right, remember, any of the topics. Now, it says right here, choose 10 questions. I want to go back really quickly. And notice right here for any of the topics, all right? So these questions are going to be about different topics, right? The first question was related to my mom. So I'm going to give this caveat. You can choose 10 questions or you can choose 10 topics. If that's easier for you, it's okay. Again, testing your English fluency. So you can either choose 10 questions, and each question needs to be about a different topic, or you can choose 10 topics for this category, all right? And remember, listen to the recording of yourself and take notes on your timing and the information. And here's how you will score yourself. If you were able to give 50 words in 5 minutes, that's 100%. And notice how the percentage changes based on the number of words you are able to give in that 5-minute period. So again, in the PDF, you will see the grading scale for vocabulary right here at the end of the PDF. Again, the link being in the description. All right. So let's move on to the next category. Again, for your fluency test, we went to 2 categories so far, content and vocabulary. What about the next category? This category, thought process, focuses on your ability to think in English about a topic. So you're going to choose 5 questions. Don't look at the questions. Again, choose 5 questions. And I'm going to add this caveat again. Let's go all the way back up in the PDF. Now we're on category number 3. And we're on the thought process. And it says choose 5 questions. I'm going to add, you can also choose 5 topics. It's up to you. 5 questions or 5 topics. And again, you're going to choose the questions or the topics and don't look at them beforehand. Then you're going to set a 5-minute timer. Remember, we have our timer right here. A 5-minute timer. Now, your goal, let's go back here. Your goal. You have 5 minutes to give your opinion and 3 reasons for all 5 of the questions you selected. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. Again, we're testing your thought process. Again, this is how you see if you are fluent. You have 5 minutes to give your opinion plus 3 reasons for each of the 5 questions. So no matter which questions you choose, you have to give your opinion and support your opinion with 3 reasons. Again, this category is important, seeing your thought process. So your goal, your first goal is once the timer has started, you want to be able to clearly state your opinion and 3 reasons in 1 minute. That's right. You want to be able to do this in 1 minute. Now, I'll be very honest with you. This is going to be a challenge, but you're trying to see how fluent you are. Are you able to? 5 minutes or 5 questions, but each question you have 1 minute to give your opinion and 3 reasons. For example, let me show you how I do it as a native English speaker. If someone asks me for this test, Tiffani, tell me about your favorite food. I have 1 minute. Oh, my favorite food is Indian food. I absolutely love it. First, because Indian food has so much seasoning and all of the seasonings match very well. Second, they normally give you an amazing amount of food when you go to an Indian restaurant. So I love the portion size. And third, I'm a vegetarian and there are so many options when I go to an Indian restaurant. So I love the food. I love the ingredients. I love the seasonings. Second, I love the portion sizes. And third, I love that they have many vegetarian options. Again, under 60 seconds, I'm able to give my opinion and my reasons. It might have went over just a little bit. I don't have a timer in front of me, but you know what I mean, right? So again, that's your goal. In 60 seconds, being able to give your opinion and 3 reasons that support your opinion, no matter which question you choose, right? This is your goal for this category. Once again, the thought process category. So how can you score yourself? Again, that's your goal. Never to repeat yourself as well. you get a 100% if you're able to give your opinion and 3 reasons for all 5 topic questions. Remember, you only have 5 minutes. So once this 5-minute timer starts, let's go back. I'm going to start the timer. You have to answer the questions. And it might take you longer or you might go shorter. But remember, you must give your opinion and 3 reasons for all 5 questions. If you're able to do that in a 5-minute period, you get a 100% for this category. If not, if you're only able to answer 4 of the questions, you get an 80%. If you're only able to answer 3 of the questions, you get a 60%. So you see again how you can score yourself for this section, this category. Remember, once again, in the PDF, at the very end, you see the grading scale. Looking at the thought process, you see the grading scale is right there. So don't worry, I got you covered. Now, what about the next category? The next category is the personal story category. This category focuses on your ability to connect a personal story to a topic. Think about it. You love how at the end of my lessons, I always give you a story time. Hey, right? Don't worry, story time is coming later. But I'm able to connect a personal story to the lessons that I teach you. And what you're going to do is you're going to choose 5 questions like you've been doing. Set your timer for 5 minutes. And your goal, again, is in that 5-minute period to provide a personal story for all of the questions, each of them. So again, going back up in the PDF, if I go to category number 4, again, your goal is to, in 5 minutes, give a personal story for all the questions. This is a challenge, but you can do it. Again, you're testing yourself, right? Now, again, goal number 1 for this category. Once the timer has started, your first goal is to give a personal story related to the topic in 1 minute. Your second goal is to make sure you end the story by connecting it directly back to the topic, summarizing your story. Again, this is going to be a challenge, this category, but you can do it. Once again, seeing all of the instructions by having your PDF for the English fluency test. Now, how can you score yourself? Again, using the PDF, I'm going all the way down to the grading scale for the personal story. So, for the personal story, if you're able to give a story for each of the 5 questions, you get a 100%. But let's say you can only do it for 4, then you get an 80%. And you see how, depending on the number of stories you're able to give, your score will change. Remember, you're doing it in a set amount of time and you're scoring yourself. Make sure you have a pen and a paper with you, a piece of paper, so you can score yourself as you go through this test. All right. So again, looking at this, you're able to score yourself based on the answers you were able to give, based on the stories you were able to give, and based on the amount of time it took you to do that. Now, the next category is also important, the response speed. This category focuses on your ability to answer quickly in English about a topic. This is something that is very important. Your goal is to speak English fluently. Your goal is to be able to sound like a native English speaker. Well, the speed that you speak at, the speed that you respond is extremely important. So again, looking at this category, you want to choose 10 questions. Don't look at them beforehand. And again, you want to set your timer for 5 minutes. So again, I'm going back, setting my timer for 5 minutes. All right. 5 minutes for this category. All right. Then your goal is to give your opinion and 3 reasons for as many questions as possible. Now remember, you chose 10 questions and you're setting your timer for 5 minutes. But it's okay if you don't get all of the 10 questions answered. You want to see how many you can answer, giving your opinion and your reasons in that 5-minute period. Again, this is about your response speed for category number 5. So you want to see how many you can answer by giving your opinion and 3 reasons. Your goal, now your goal for this one right here, your goal is to give a full response that includes your opinion and 3 reasons. And your goal is to get as many answered as possible in that 5-minute period. Now, if you're able to do this for 7 or more questions, you'll get a 100%. Remember, you have to watch the video. Remember, recording yourself answering the questions or recording an audio clip and listen to yourself. Write down how many. If you get 6 of them answered, that's an 80%. 5 of them answered, a 60%. So you see your score changes based on the number that you were able to answer, all right? So again, on our grading scale, right here, we have the response speed category and we have the grading scale. Now, the next category is also extremely important. The next category is the response length, and it focuses on your ability to talk for an extended period about a topic. Think about it. I'm speaking for an extended period of time about your English fluency test because I speak English fluently and I can teach you how as well. So for this one, what you're going to do is choose one question, only one, and set your timer for 5 minutes. That's right, one question, and you have to set your timer for 5 minutes. Only one question. Now, this is where it gets interesting. For this category, again, we're talking about response length. What you're going to do is you'll have a total of 5 minutes. 5 minutes to give an answer that includes your opinion, your reasons or the supports, and a personal story. Now, you must talk for 5 minutes in order to get a 100%. But remember, you want to give your opinion, your reasons, and a personal story about the one question you chose. It's very important. So how can you score yourself? Your goal is not to repeat yourself, but here's how you score yourself. If you speak for 5 minutes with no pauses, you get a 100%. If you speak for 4 minutes, you get an 80%. 3 minutes, a 60%. 2 minutes, a 40%. And 1 minute, you get a 20%. So again, you're seeing how with each category, you can test yourself and see what your score will be. This is very important. Again, following this English fluency test. Once again, let's go down and see how you can score yourself, right? Here we go. Response length. You can score yourself right here, all right? Now, I know that it might be challenging to find some questions. So when you download the free PDF, again, hitting the link in the description, you'll see example questions. That's right. You don't have to search for the questions on your own. I actually have example questions already prepared for you to help you, and they go along with the sections A, B, C, D, and you can choose the questions based on your own desires. So I have example questions included for you, and you can use these questions to test yourself again based on the 6 categories. These 6 categories will help you see if you are a fluent English speaker and where you are on your journey. I really hope this English fluency test helps you. Don't forget to download the free PDF with all the instructions by hitting the link in the description, and I will talk to you in the next lesson. You still there? You know what time it is. Here we go. It's story time. Hey, I said it's story time. All right. So today's story is actually about a test that I had to take. Now, again, you know that I studied Korean. You know that I lived in Korea for almost 10 years. And you also know that I had to study in Korea. I was in grad school in Korea, and my program was completely in Korean. Now, at the end of the program, I had to take an exam. This exam was not challenging. It was extremely difficult for everyone, not just because I was an American. Even my Korean friends that were in the program with me, they also had a difficult time with the exam. So I took the exam the first time and failed. I took the exam the second time and failed. Now, the second time I failed the exam, it really hit me hard. It was a very difficult thing for me to go through. But at that moment, I realized I had to change the way I was studying. I had to do something different. You see, this exam, just to explain, it was not just about Korean. I also had to understand a little bit of Hanja. I also had to make sure I understood Korean art history, Japanese art history, Chinese art history. It was a lot of information. And I didn't know how to see if I was really grasping the information, so I created a test. It's true. In preparation for the test, I created this system so that I could test myself. Now, I am an artist, and what I did was I would read the information. I would read everything. And let's say I had one situation that I had to study, maybe something that happened in Korean art history. I would read it. Then I would take notes. So reading it, taking notes, and then third, I would draw pictures. Pictures that described whatever was happening. Maybe there was a war. Maybe there was a situation where a man and a woman came together and they were speaking about something. I would put it in pictures. And then I would test myself. I would look at the pictures and see if I could explain the story. And I would write the story out based on the pictures I had drawn. And then my friend would grade my test. This is how I studied for about 6 months. Every single day, except Saturday, I took a break on Saturdays. Every single day from morning to night, I would read the stories. Second, I would write notes on the stories. Third, I would draw pictures that describe the stories. And fourth, I would look at the pictures and write out in Korean what the pictures were showing. And then my friend would grade my test. And this is how I was able to pass the exam the third time. Of course, I prayed a lot. God was good. But I had to figure out a way to test myself on what I was learning. Was I really retaining the information? How could I see if I really knew what I was studying? Now, that third test, it was very difficult. But when I got the question, I started seeing the pictures in my mind. I started to remember what I had written down and the notes my friend gave me when she corrected my test. So it's possible for you to achieve any of your goals. Just like I was able to finally pass the hardest test of my life when I figured out how to test myself. I want you to remember this. I want you to use what you learned today, this English fluency test. It's going to be challenging. But if you follow the instructions, if you follow each step and you continue testing yourself, maybe once a month, maybe once every 3 months, you will see yourself improve and you'll understand how you can finally pass the test with a 100%. I hope you enjoyed this story and I hope you pass your test. I'll talk to you next time.